Welcome to the Business Podcast Show.
Welcome to episode 6, folks.
Episode 6.
It feels like, man, dude, I think at episode 3, we were saying it felt like forever.
Right.
And it was 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And now it feels like, I don't even know, it feels normal.
So, yeah, now it's like if we don't get an episode out for our first, for any week, if we don't record it, for some reason, it just feels like we're off.
Right, it feels awkward.
It feels weird.
Yeah.
So, it feels good that now we just kind of added this to our routine. It's like normal for me to kind of just see you on a weekly basis now, right?
I know.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, it is.
It's a good built-in aspect to our week.
Yeah.
I like it.
Forces us to kind of get out of the house at the moment and just step out. So
yeah.
Good to see you again this week.
Absolutely, man. Good to see you. Like during a pandemic, you don't see your friends too often.
Right.
Other than Zoom, of course,
Right. That gets old real quick.
That gets old really, really quick. Yep. But tell me what you've been up to this week, man. I mean, this week and the past couple of weeks, what's been going on?
Yeah, man. Well, as far as e-commerce for me, I have a huge deal coming. Actually had someone who requested a wholesale purchase of some of my one of my brands. One of my iPhone cases over in Europe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
wow.
it kind of came out of left field. I wasn't even, I really work on like just consumer, just like working directly to consumers. So to
like
have
B2C.
Yeah, B2C.
Yeah.
So to have a B2B, another business reach out, they're wanting to move forward, and we're in the process of negotiating a $40,000 order.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's big time.
We're going to split it up. We're going to do about 50-50, so 20,000 up front, and then the remaining 20,000 after about 30 days, and just make sure that's all fulfilled. But man, it's just exciting again, like about creating your brand. You don't create a product, you create your brand so that you have other companies now just wanting to purchase wholesale on my product.
Right.
And it's crazy because it's like, man, they can technically, I don't do anything proprietary. It's iPhone cases. They can find their own supplier in another country and create it. But like they love my brand so much that they're willing to want to move forward with the deal. So it's kind of an easy 40,000 kind of this month. So it's super exciting in the midst of a pandemic. Just going to come up 40K, and it's just exciting, man. And then to build that relationship, that's only an initial relationship. So if I can continue this, I won't have to maybe lean on so much on B2C, and I can focus more on B2B.
Right. Because that's kind of like almost your next pivot, right? I mean, like in e-commerce, of course, B2C is always there.
Right.
Like B2C will always be there in e-commerce. For people that want to get into that game, like there's always products that you can continuously sell to an addressable market. Addressable market meaning anything that can be addressed for that market, like the people that need something in that space. So iPhone cases, right? Like
exactly.
Who's going to stop needing iPhone cases? And if you don't already have an iPhone, this might not be your podcast, but
don't talk to us.
But
Team Apple, Team iPhone, all the way,
everything, all day. So that's like your pivot. That's your evolution. Like because every business has like a growth. So like I had always known you doing B2C, like your site, right? You literally your website. Shipping out product to customers, like individual people. But then like with e-commerce or commerce in general, wholesale, like that's when you can sit back and literally put your legs up on the desk and be like, all right, how many do you want?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And I'm not so focused on B2C. Like it allows me to like split my business in half at least. Like again, like when it comes even to the concept or like the tactics of like investing, always, you never want to put all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
So this allows me now, it's like, okay, I don't have to wait till Q4 to get like my biggest sales. Like now it's throughout the year where like, man, it's only April, and I had a huge influx of, an order or sales, and that's just focus. And that's one retailer.
I have
exactly. I have to get like 10,000 orders,
right?
Or 5,000-6,000 orders to even make up this 40,000
for that order right there.
Right, for that order.
Let's just imagine, like, for you, all you have to, to make this splinter from your business, right, work in a major way, all they have to do is sell through pretty quick,
right?
At some good clip. And as soon as they sell through, they're going to reorder.
Exactly.
Right. And then on top of that, like, you just now you're probably, your brain is probably already thinking like, okay, who are his competitors or her competitors, right? Who's running businesses that are just running businesses like my customer now?
Exactly.
And then you're going to maybe approach those people, maybe approach the same type of people in different European countries.
Right. Exactly. And that's only one retail in Europe that made that order. So and that's the evolution that I feel like people don't see. Like when you watch, people glorify Shark Tank. Yeah. And they're like, okay, I want to create this new invention and I want to be in Costco.
Right.
And I'm like, who doesn't want to be in Costco?
Yeah.
Of course I want to sell my iPhone cases in Costco. They're going to order $1 million worth of inventory for all their, but like,
right.
There's levels and a process to get there.
There's layers to the ish.
You have to get B2C. You have to show that there's demand. You have to go through, I don't know the full process to even get to Costco because I'm not even there yet.
Right. You got to talk to a Costco buyer, which is impossible.
Exactly. But people want to, find a supplier, start creating a product, and the very first step is them selling to these major distribution companies and retailers. And I'm like, you skipped 800 steps in between. Right. And then they get disappointed because Costco didn't pick up their phone call to sell this thing. And I'm like, that's the part that I feel like is missing in like the industry, or like, again, we glorify Shark Tank. We glorify these $1 million businesses that you see on, I don't know, like you see in the news that are like, someone is now offering their product on, what was that one blanket? Like a Snuggie.
Oh, yeah, the Snuggie. Wasn't it made by accident, too?
Yes, it was made by accident. And then that gets so glorified in the stories, like Snuggie, inventor is now a multi-millionaire. But then you didn't see that he didn't just call up Costco, or he didn't just call up your local retailers and was like, hey, can you guys buy my product? Right. You have to go through this process and show that, like, okay, you sell to one, a couple people. You start selling to a couple thousand, you make your first $1 million. Right. And now you start reaching out to distributors because you have to, up front maybe supply some of that money before you can, like, you have to buy all that inventory before you can supply. It's not like Costco is going to give you $1 million and then you can use $1 million to sell it. No, you have to.
This is capitalism, baby.
Yeah, exactly. You have to go buy that $1 million worth of inventory and then give it to them, and then they will only give you what they sell, and sometimes they'll return whatever they don't sell. Right. So like, there's just so much.
There's so many intricacies into it
that people just don't focus on.
So really quick, who's your favorite shark?
Ooh, that's a good question. Honestly, I want to say like Mark Cuban.
Ooh, okay, all right. Yeah. And I can totally understand why you pick Mark Cuban. Yeah. And I respect that. Yeah. Other decisions you would have said, I may have not respected. So my favorite shark is Mr. Wonderful.
Oh, he's just ruthless.
Because he's ruthless. All right?
He takes all the emotion out of, but he's smart.
Right. So he's incredibly intelligent. Yeah. He's ruthless. Mm-hmm. But what a lot of people, like, for instance, like my girlfriend, she's like, why would you like him? Like, how do you like Mr. Wonderful? Like, the things he says to people and whatever. And she gets why he says the things he does and everything. But at the end of the day, like, the reality of it is, like, the way he sucks the emotion out of the investment and creates this one thing where it's like, hey, this is all that matters, right? Like, here's my dollars and cents, right? And they're like, okay, daddy, where am I going today? And like, I'm gonna send you off to so and so, and then you're gonna come back and you're gonna bring all your friends with you, right? And the way he explains, like, how your investment's supposed to make some money, because that's all he's there to do. Yes. And that's why I love him, because other than that, he's like, I'm gonna take your product behind a barn and shoot it. That's where it belongs. Like,
and I love him because he's so blunt. he'll just give it to you as it is. And like in business, you need it like that. Like,
yeah.
I'm sorry, but like this is not where we talk about feelings. Like
Right.
there's a time and place for that.
There's a time and a place for
business.
it. Right.
And if you are going to talk about like being sad because your business isn't doing well, like what are Ben and I going to tell you? Well, like you're doing something wrong.
You're doing something wrong. I tell people all the time, like, when I'm consulting with people, if there's something wrong in the sequence meaning like the entirety of what they're operating, from end to end, start to finish, from subscriber to client, right? Mm-hmm. Basically, if there's something wrong, I'm going to figure out I'm going to do a diagnosis, like a doctor does a diagnosis on what's off in the code. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah.
If you're looking at, something, it's like, okay, for instance, a lot of people market, and they market via email or they market via social, right? And something could be off on their marketing, right? And when you pick that out, you're like, boom, diagnosed, fixed, done. Let's redo it. Let's run the sequence, and it should work.
Very logical.
Right. Logical. Right.
No emotion. And what's funny is just to go a little back on how you mentioned about Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah.
And like removing the emotion. Mm-hmm. One quote, and maybe I won't get it to the exact.
Oh, you're going to do the quotes today. All right.
One thing that he mentioned was like the best industry that Mr. Wonderful wants to go in is weddings and death.
Yeah.
And he's like,
yes.
That is the only time that people will just pay outrageous amounts of money because you can kind of take advantage of their emotions at the time, and they're willing to pay emotionally how much this wedding cake, which if it was a regular cake, would only cost $1,000 cheaper than now it's a wedding cake, or like a wedding DJ, or a wedding photographer, or anything. Or now you're talking about funerals. Again, I know we're getting a little morbid here, but Mr. Wonderful is to the point correct.
Right.
You can upcharge in those and take advantage. It sounds so bad.
Right. Because nobody like exactly what you're saying. I'll take this emotional burden off you right now because I know it's tough. And hopefully nobody's planning a funeral.
Right.
But at the end of the day, that's not where you're going to spare expenses.
Right.
Unless you just don't have them, But bottom line is like, if you have money, you're not going to spare an expense at somebody's funeral. Like, God forbid anyone is talking about burying anybody, but like, Mr. Wonderful as a savvy investor, so weird to talk about that with morbidity, but like he's literally, making a case for not preying on people's emotions, but utilizing the market. I mean, because there's a market. How many funeral parlors, how many wedding planners exist in the marketplace right now?
Yeah,
like a bazillion, and he's on top of that stuff.
And there goes another thing in an episode that you talk about is like a saturated market. Right. You know how many wedding photographers there are, but yet there's still new ones every single day. You know why? Because it's high demand. Mm-hmm. You can start your photography company tomorrow and start charging $5,000-$6,000 for clients.
Right. Absolutely.
And there's hundreds of thousands and millions of people getting married every single year.
Right.
And you can capture part of that market.
Right.
So as much as like people want to shy away from even like, for example, our coaching program or like consulting, you're like, oh my God, it's so saturated. No, it's high demand.
It's high demand.
People want high touch points.
Right.
And if you can provide this level of service and get people results, it's a win-win.
If you want to be a wedding photographer, or if you want to start a wedding planning business, or if you want to do something like of that level, like come join our Facebook group. We'll talk about it. I'll show you exactly how to do it in a weekend, right? I'll have your business set up in a weekend, and then at that point, it's moving forward and just getting clients, right? Right. Getting clients for your business, clients that you said want to pay $5,000 to $6,000 to take care of whatever their needs are, right? In the wedding, in the wedding space.
Yeah, and forgot to mention this at the very beginning. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave us a review.
Yes, leave a review, please. That's one of the most important parts. If you do enjoy the content, please leave a review. If you don't, leave us a message on the Facebook group.
Right. Yes. Check out our private Facebook group. Again, if you want to interact with us, talk about business, and start creating your own coaching program. And to segue a little bit into this, and I know I got to talk a little bit about what's going on with my day-to-day. Love to hear an update over on your side in the recruiting space and your consulting business.
Yeah, for sure, man. Things are good.
Yeah.
Q1 was very good to me. So a lot of action, a lot of growth. So what's going on is actually a lot of influx, and basically kind of like we're riding a wave right now. So I'm bringing somebody new onto my team. That person's gonna be ramping up sales. That person's going to be amplifying what I'm going to have to deal with after sales, post sales, with the consulting. And so things are really, really good. All good things happening. I won't even use the word good problems or the phrase because it's just good. I love it. So something that knocked on my door, like not physically, but something that came my way like 3 days ago was a really interesting scenario. There was actually a candidate, right? So in the recruiting space, you got candidates, you got clients, companies that want to hire. So a candidate that I was dealing with like 4 years ago, just texted me out of the blue. And this guy's making around 300K plus, like a lot.
Wow.
Quite a bit. Working for a really well-known company. And basically said, hey, I want to make a move. I'm super ready to make a move. I want to go somewhere VC backed. I want to possibly get equity. I want to, basically make a jump. And because what we were talking about the last time that we were working together wasn't really panning out. And he was super busy with work as it would be. And so at that point, now he's like, I'm ready to make a move. And this is someone that is marketable for like a 20% fee. And when you tabulate that, it's about, it should be somewhere in the realm of a $70,000 fee.
Wow.
That I can collect. Yeah. For placing them. And with the market in recruitment, the way it is right now, it's very, very hot. So there's a ridiculous amount of demand for good quality candidates on low level and high level, everywhere in between. And this person is highly unique in the tech space, and I think it's going to pan out really good. So basically, I just kind of found out that I'm going to be striking a really good match here.
That's exciting, and the crazy part is like how that came to fruition, how it came for you, and it just came knocking through the door for you,
right?
Just like another opportunity, because you have so many ways of people to either reach you or find you, or again, what's most importantly is that relationship.
Yeah.
Never burning any bridges, always keeping things open. And I don't think you ever focus on the short term. You always focus on the long term. And look how long this one came back around.
Oh yeah. Yeah. 1,000%. So, I mean, you just brought up like 6 episodes right there, but like never playing the short game, right? Unless it's needed. And when you need to play the long and short game, but always focusing on the long game, right? Never burning a bridge, always keeping a solid connection, right? Being real, being truthful, being honest, being direct, transparent. I mean, these are my values, right? In business and life. And, although we're both ruthless and we go after like what we're doing in business, at the same time we do it with dignity and all that kind of thing. And we both, like you said before, we have brands, right? Why did somebody come to you with a wholesale order for $40,000 to say, hey Mike, I'm going to slap this on your desk right now, $40,000. Why did somebody come back around to me 4 years later to go do business again and say, hey, I'm looking, right? And in recruitment, like they could talk to a lot of people, but when they hit me back up, I was like, okay, well, this means a lot. And I know that you did this for a reason. you didn't like miscalculate and just say, you know, I'm not going to, I'm going to text whoever. No, you know, they did that for a reason. So with that being said, I was like, okay, this makes sense because, you know, I remember when we were working together previously, like we were finding good quality opportunities and we were actually involved like halfway through the process with a couple opportunities, and then things he kind of pulled back, which was fine. But this person, you know, at this point now is ready. So yeah, I'm ready for it. You know.
See, and that, man, again, congrats, super exciting. I love when we again focus on the long term. Just like even for example for this podcast, like we're only 6 episodes in.
Yeah.
And a lot of people. It's just like this could be even an example of a journey of any type of entrepreneur business that anyone wants to start. Is like we're at 6 episodes in, and sometimes people can get discouraged because it's like, hey man, our YouTube only has 29 subscribers, you know, or like our private Facebook group has like maybe about 10, 15, if that, you know what I mean?
Right.
So,
right.
And then people immediately will get discouraged and be like, I've been doing this for 6 weeks. I don't know if this is the right thing to do. And short term, if you focus on that and you pivot too fast, like you have to at least give it a chance. So I want people to just see that like Ben and I, because we're starting this new business together, we're back in the reins of like where everyone else is. Like to anyone who might be listening, when you're starting off your business, we're there with you. We're starting something off. We're starting something so brand new that like we're only 6 weeks in, and we haven't seen any return yet. Like we're starting to see the momentum, but like for the short game, some people might quit now. And just be like, man, didn't get that many views on YouTube, don't have too many listeners. But it's like you got to be a little bit of like optimistic and sometimes naively positive, because let's focus on that. We have maybe about like 15 different countries now listening to our podcasts. We have over almost close to 100 different cities, you know, around the world listening to our podcast, and we're only 6 weeks in. And I feel like we're in this culture right now where it's all about instant gratification. If you want the answer to something or you want to watch something, go on YouTube or like Google something. And now we've just put this thing in our mind where like we want something now. We want happiness now. That I think we lose the aspect of like, no, you, in order to get like the big gains, to have someone come back around 4 years later to get that retail offer, it's like you have to go the long term and get that compound interest. Put something in now, put that seed in. But like we're right here with you, and we feel people's pain when you're first starting off a business. It's not easy. It's hard. So we're right there in the seat with a lot of these people, or, you know, any of our listeners right now. If you're starting your business, it's hard. It's not easy, but we're here with you.
1,000%. Like, so you want to fill people in on like what we were talking about right before we started filming?
Oh yeah.
We were talking about what content we want to put on YouTube, what content we want to put in subscribers to clients, the Facebook group. Which are we going to double that content on both? Are we going to, you know, do certain things? You know, what do we want to talk about in the podcast? What do we want to put more of on YouTube? What do we want to put more of in the group? And that's whiteboard strategy. Like we're talking about like phase 1, like, 6 weeks in, but we're still talking about phase 1, figure it out style. Like, you know what I mean? Like, where are we going to pivot? Where we're going to go? We already know that we have like the knowledge, you know, we already know that we have, you know, the know-how and things like that. But the process of building a business and creating, you know, something out of nothing, right, is really an engineering process, you know, to a degree, not an actual engineering process, right? It's a little bit different, but you know, it's a creative / engineering process. You know, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. You got to put things in sequence, put certain importance on certain things, and, you know, drive the energy of what you're actually doing in a certain way so that people can get value. At the end of the day, it's all about delivering value. So, you know, when me and Mike talk about it. It's weird to talk about you in like the third person.
I know.
When we're just sitting here.
We're just right across from each other.
There's only 2 people in this room. But anyways, like when we talk about it, we talk about it from a value perspective. Like, okay, like how is that? How can we show someone how to create, a YouTube channel that's going to blow up, that's going to bring them subs, that's going to bring them people that want to go to a group, that wants to go to become a client and wants to get on a phone call, like all that stuff, you know what I mean? And that's how we're thinking. That's how you have to be thinking, you know what I mean? The listener, you have to be thinking about when you're growing, something for your business, because other than that, you're kind of just, you've got a hobby otherwise.
100%. And I love this because in our podcast, and what we always expected this since day one, is to be fully transparent. And we want people to follow our journey. So although, yes, some episodes will sprinkle a little bit of our success of what we did in the past, and it's easy to talk in retrospect of like, oh, I did this and now I made this.
Oh, yeah.
But like for you to now be on the ground level of something that we're starting off and like learn and understand like what we're currently going through, I think is so eye-opening and people would love to hear. And that's what I want to share. So like, even if we're like even talking on a tactical basis and we're talking about this podcast, like our highest top of mind, number one motive right now is to get as much of an audience as we can onto our show. Absolutely. So for a lot of people who are creating their first coaching program or their first like personal brand, that should be your main priority. Mm-hmm. A lot of people want to focus on like, oh, what should my first product be? Or like, what should, what should I invest in? What are all these different tools in? Or like, what's the business card I should work on right now? And things like that. But no, me and Ben right now, our highest top of mind is how do we reach as many people as we can as possible, and then create that audience where we can either move them into our private Facebook group, which is, subscribers to clients, and then, reach out as many top of funnel with our YouTube to deliver content, and our podcast. Mm-hmm. Podcasting is very new territory for us.
Yes. Yeah.
100% new territory for us.
Right. Everything else that you mentioned, like, is like spot on. And then, when you mention the podcasting aspect, like, yeah, like anyone that's watching this episode, go back to episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all of it. This is new. Like, we just got these microphones, like,
straight out the box.
Straight out of the box. Like when we set it up the first day, like we joked about how long it took us. But like this is new territory. This is new stuff. And it's almost like sort of like people can follow along, like on almost like a
it's almost going to be like a journaling. Like this is like if anybody wants to see how we started a business from scratch,
right?
Start from episode 1 and follow us through.
Yeah. Right? Exactly. I love that because you can you just go from episode 1 and on, and you're going to be seeing exactly what we're doing,
right? While
you do what you do, mm-hmm. And hopefully we can help you do what you do, right? That's our mission. Our mission is to help as many people as possible. Through subscribers to clients, get to the point where they're like, okay, I'm building a business, I'm building a brand, I'm building something, right? It's got nothing to do with recruitment and e-commerce or whatever. Maybe that's your thing, but it's not at all. That does not matter, like for anyone wondering. But we're looking at 1,000 different niches, you know what I mean? And how someone can create a business out of that. And I like what you said earlier, it's easy to talk in retrospect about successes, right? Like, how easy is it to bring back the days of like, oh man, that one big paycheck, or now even you, right? The next time you mention that B2B deal you just made, I'm gonna be like, Mike, you already told me about that, man.
Right.
Like, what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, but here's the thing with it though. What's funny, because you mentioned that, is I'm gonna quote Jeff Bezos. It's always day one.
Oh, yes.
Right?
100%.
It's always day one.
It really is. And it's that mindset. Ah, man, what was that quote from Jeff Bezos? I was actually watching a video of him the other day.
Me too.
When they were saying, they were doing an interview with him when Amazon first started. and they were like, so why did you start Amazon?
Oh,
why did you
on the side of the street where he's like bald and whatever, and okay, definitely.
They're like, why did you start Amazon? Like, how do you make your decisions? And God, what was the term that he used? But it was called like risk assessment, like something. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I remember the episode.
It's like my regret to risk. Basically, he
was it when he was talking about
regret minimization or basically something like that.
So okay, was it like when he was? I know the one episode when he was talking about it was like thinking about things in terms of what you omit, like the omissions you make from your life, and like
exactly. He would rather go through life attempting everything than going to the end of his life and saying, I wish I did that.
Yeah. Right.
And it just hit home to me because I'm exactly like that.
Right.
So I'd rather, flip every single rock to know what's under that than to one day, again, don't want to get too morbid, be on my
Why is this
deathbed.
happening?
I don't know.
Yeah. Can we do the rosary real quick?
Right. I'm Catholic, so.
Yeah.
To just be on your deathbed and just be like, I wish I did that, or I wish I tried, or I wish I attempted it, and I wish I gave it full effort.
Right.
Because I think there's so many things like that people wish they can do or want to do. And it's just crazy how Jeff Bezos, like, when he first started Amazon, it was like, hey, this was supposed to be just be a bookstore, or like for you to buy books online. And he saw a small little opening where there was an opportunity, and there, he asked himself, like, do I want to do this? And he's like, you know what? Let's do a risk to reward analysis. There's an exact term, and I'll find it for next episode. Yep. But basically, it's just him saying, like, risk to reward. Will I regret this? I think it's called regret minimization or something like that. And he's just like, I would regret this. So yes, I'm going to try it. And then he did it. And obviously, like, again, circling back to the evolution of selling B2B, there's an evolution to it. Amazon started it off as a online book retailer, slowly went to e-commerce, slowly went to fresh foods, went to Amazon Alexa. I hope there's not an Alexa in here, because then now it'll start pinging me. I hate it every time you say Alexa. It'll start, hey, well, how can I help you?
Right.
But yeah, like, again, there was a process to it, and there's just like a level of commitment when you start any type of business. Anything you want to be successful in, it's commitment.
Yep.
That's all it is.
Yep. Commitment is the number one. Like, that's it. If you're committed, if you just say, put a stamp on it, like, I'm in, like, that's it. Mm-hmm. And that's what the greats have. I mean, like, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, founder of Costco, Jim Senegal or whatever, the greats, Warren Buffett, etc. They're committed. They're committed to what they're doing, period. Done. End of story. No questions asked. Like, they're not halfway in, halfway out. Like, and I think, like, even pulling it back from like a morbidity discussion, it's just like, how about just commit because you know that it's possible, right? Like, society is so fascinating because we talk about the differentiation between the 9-to-5 life and, the basic, standard, living. And then we also talk about the converse of that. We talk about stepping outside the box and doing what you want to do, and risk minimization or regret minimization, as Jeff Bezos would put it. And if you just operate on regret minimization plus commitment, you're going to be good. You know what I mean? Because so many things are possible, but you're just not believing they're possible yet. You know what I mean? Like, until you do it, until you do that, and then you're like, wow, I just hit 6 figures in a month. Like, that's amazing. In 30 days, you did what people do
in a year.
And that's not even, the average American makes $45,000 a year. Salary. That's it. That is so many people, right? The 1%, people think the 1% are like billionaires. The 1%, only make, well, I mean, you say only, but like some people aren't used to large numbers, like 410,000 and above,
and you're a 1%.
You're 1%.
You're 1% if you're making 400,000 plus.
400K plus. You're part of the 1%.
Especially even here in like Seattle, like we have a lot of demand in high industry and like cost of living here. So like 410,000 might be a lot for other places too, but like even for Seattle, like that's 1% here. And again, once you kind of see that, like, not necessarily how easy, because I don't want to take away, like, and I don't want to try to, again, go for the short game, trying to trick people and say like, oh yeah, making $400,000 is easy.
Correct. It's not
it's
easy.
Not. But there's multiple steps to it where, like, again, like if you're working the 9 to 5, like, yes, you can make a living making six figures even with a 9 to 5.
Right.
But and there's a clear path and clear direction to six figures from a 9 to 5 job.
Right.
You know, you're working at entry level. Now you're going to a senior position. Now maybe you're a people's manager. Now you're upper level management. I mean, upper level management can be making close, 150,000 plus.
Mm-hmm.
You're mid-level management.
Right.
You'll be sitting, and there's a clear-cut direction.
Right.
But it tops off at some point.
Yeah.
When you're creating a business, and I mean, it seems pretty obvious, it's just like there is no ceiling, but there isn't a straight, narrow path.
Correct.
Nowhere near. You will not have a business that will tell you like 100% guaranteed. And that's why you have FCC, and is it FCC that's like regulating like what you can say that like, oh yeah, if you start this franchise, you can make $100,000 a month. Like,
oh right,
they
like
can't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They can't even fall because businesses are just like so out there. Where even like in education now, like I feel like our education's so behind in trying to teach people how to start a business. Where it's like, hey, specialize in this trade. And like for me, you can become a pilot, and now you can go and follow this straight and narrow path, and now you can start making this, this amount of money. But businesses, the scary part is because there's so much unknown,
right?
So much unknown. Like we can put in this work for a year, and technically make nothing.
Yep.
And there's no guarantee,
right?
And that's the sad news, is that some people can and will. Most likely.
Right.
Like some people have the commitment in them and they'll work for an entire year, and then they see nothing, and people get really discouraged for that.
Right.
But in that level, it's just like, man, there's just so many, like, you have to be adaptable in these different things. And I mean, I'm ranting.
No. I mean, you're making a perfect point. Like, at the end of like, at the end of the road, where you see the pathway, A, B, C, D, taking all the steps going forth, and seeing what's going to happen, what's not. You might just stick a fork in it after a year. The funny thing is, like, you and me, we're already beyond that. And so many other, I'm not putting you or I on a pedestal. So many people, savvy business people that have the mindset, dialed in, have already gotten over the potential failure. And I think that's where you win so big, where you already are beyond your failure. So at that point, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain, because you're understanding that, like, listen, I don't know this is going to work or not. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and circling back to Jeff Bezos, when he went to start Amazon, he was on Wall Street, right? And he was on Wall Street, and he was contemplating this whole thing. And I think he even mentioned it to a couple people after completely solidifying, what he wanted to do and getting things in place. He didn't just give out his secret or whatever, but he had a conversation and told his superior. I think there was a partner or a superior, but he was already making like $1 million a year or something on Wall Street. And his superior or partner took him for a walk, right? And you probably know about this story. And like took him for a walk and said, like, man, like, hey, what are you talking about, Jeff? Like, this is crazy. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you're gonna drive across the country to Seattle and you're gonna start this bookstore like online, like. What? I think this is like 1990 something.
Right.
And At that point, it would have sounded crazy.
It sounds crazy.
Right. And so they called him crazy, and and then he went and did it. And I think the funny part is too, like, he raised $1 million, to sell off, I think 20% of the company.
Right.
And those people made out really good, by the way. But
for sure, they're set.
They're set. But basically, he took that, and he had that mindset of like, listen, if this goes south, I think he had already done the regret minimization, optimal analysis, everything. Throw in all the words,
right,
that you can do, to the point where he was like, I don't care. I'm going to do it, and guess what? I'll figure out whatever happens next.
Right. And that's the same thing with like with the coaching business. Like, in retrospect, it's like, or people just like even thinking about starting a coaching business, they're just like, I don't know. I haven't really personally seen someone, because it's I don't remember the last time excuse me, the last person I've met who's started a coaching business. It's not a normal thing, or it's not like every person has started a coaching business or a mentorship program. So
exactly,
it's pretty rare. On the online space, like, I'm sure you could find thousands of people who have started it. So like, starting from the beginning again, like with us, like, it sounds kind of crazy. Like, you're like, people are going to pay $5,000 for me to help them with their business or help them with their goals. And it's like, yeah, it's true. But there's so many people, again, like when Amazon first started, it's like a bookstore, like an online bookstore. Like, we have Barnes and Nobles for that. Why do we need to buy this online? You know what I mean?
I'm supposed to drive there though.
Right.
Like,
and us starting from scratch with this is like, people don't understand, is like, we're going through this with you, and technically, like, if you just chalked it up for what we have for 6 weeks, it's a failure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if we said we're done 6 weeks, we haven't got anyone into our program, like,
right,
it's a failure.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But again, it's the long game. We're with it with everyone who wants to start their own coaching program.
Yeah.
And there's so much margin or room for error, where like, you only need 2 or 3 clients a month to start seeing cash flow.
Right.
Then to start investing, and then start like all your other opportunities that you want to work with. Like, technically, if you got 2 clients at $2,500 a month, that's $5,000. That's $60,000 a year. That's more than the median average of the national salary. Like, 2 clients a month.
Right.
But people are just like, how do I get those 2 clients? Well, let's work backwards.
Let's talk about it.
That's what we're here. That's what we want to talk about. Like, how do I get 2 clients? That's your goal. We can get you there. Right. That's 2 clients isn't the hard part. It's to have you believe and start this goal and commit. Now to commit, because now you see that it's doable. Ben's doing it. I'm doing it. Like, yeah, we're talking about, my B2B for 40 grand, or like you placing someone for 70, but like, the coaching aspect of it, we haven't even really talked about here. Right. You know what I mean? And like, even with like subscribers to clients, or like you and your recruiting consulting company, like, we haven't even touched that surface of trying to teach people exactly like, hey, to get 2 clients a month, create, like, these are steps A through Z. Right.
And that's, I think, like exactly going back to a conversation we had earlier, where we want to put out more content. And basically, we kind of want to show people, like, flat out, hey, here's how you would go about this. Here's how you'd go about that, right? And we always like drop complete transparency here, because that's who we are. And on my YouTube channel that I built, it's nothing but videos about how to start a recruiting agency and set it up and go make 6 figures. Like, at minimum, like how you can at minimum start that type of business. It's nothing but that content. Now, with that being said, you could watch that content and you can go do that. Like, if you took notes and studied it and kind of like went over it, tried really hard, failed 3-4 times, and then got there in a year. But, I also have a coaching program, right? And that's why I think the coaching program, right, for so many people with so much knowledge out there, is one of the best businesses to jump into right now, because you can actually just take all of that stuff I was kind of talking about, put it in one box and say, listen, I'm going to unwrap this for you the right way. And then I'm going to set a runway up for you, and you're going to take off and soar. You're going to fly, you're going to soar. You know what I mean? And go to 6, 7 figures, whatever, all that. As much as you put into it is what you'll get out of it. But that's the coaching business, right? And I think that's one of the things we need to do, right? Which we were just talking about, is putting out more content like that, like on YouTube,
right?
So more like how-tos almost.
Because we're not even trying to reinvent the wheel, okay? So like, right. We know that Ben's coaching business is well over projected for 7 figures.
Correct.
You're pushing over bare minimum, like a bad month, 50, 75,000, 100,000. You know what I mean? Like, and that's hard to believe. I know some people are like, right. No way he's doing it.
Do the math.
No, he's doing it, guys. 100%. I will validate for him. 100%. And if like you just saw, like, this is what he did. He created hundreds of YouTube videos, so committed for the first year and a half of not even getting his first student. A year and a half. And I'm not saying in order to start a coaching business, you'll have to go through a year and a half.
Right.
Just because Ben didn't have anyone to guide him for that year and a half.
Correct.
To 2 years, where if he had a mentor or someone teaching him, he could have easily cut that in half. But
in half or in a
quarter.
By like 90%. You know what I mean?
And Ben went through that year and a half with a lot of trial and error. So if you just look at for like the logical steps, it's like, okay, it took 500 videos for him to get maybe 100 of them to go viral. And viral, right. Again, is only like 1,000 plus or 2,000 plus
1,000 views
on YouTube.
Yeah.
To generate now over 13,000. I looked it up. I think you're close to 14,000.
I'm just about to hit 14,000.
14,000. So technically, almost 14,000 subscribers equals 7-figure business.
Right.
Like that's what I'm saying. So I just wish people, and that's 7 figures.
Yeah.
So a 5,000 subscriber YouTube, again, subscribers to clients, turning those subscribers to your clients. If you even had 1,000 subscribers or 5,000 subscribers, cut this in less than half of what Ben has, you can have a decent business.
Right.
Decent coaching business.
Right. It's all about kind of just looking at the market, seeing how many people you can reach, subscribers, and how many of those you can turn into clients. And I think what we're doing through the podcast, through our YouTube, through our Facebook group and everything is literally just mapping that out. I mean, as simple as it can be said, we're mapping that out based on both of our experience, based on kind of what we've done. And that's not even a plug. That's like literally like, hello, being transparent. This is what I make. This is what I do. That's how much you make. This is how much you do.
Right.
Like, follow along while we do this. Let's help you out as well. Check out the group. Hop into the group. Subscribe on Apple, Spotify, leave a review. And I think that, if you can help us grow, that'd be great. We want to help you grow. That's our vision,
For sure. Yep. And to wrap it up, again, just subscribe to us on, find us on YouTube, find our private Facebook group, again, where you could just interact with Ben and I. If you have any ideas for the type of new episodes that you want to hear from us on our podcast show, just jump onto our private Facebook group and just send us a message there, or just kind of
drop it as a comment or something. Just
exactly.
Like, right? Join the group, drop a comment like, hey, I want you guys to talk about this. I want you to talk about that. And FYI, in case anyone didn't know, we're gonna be getting some guests on pretty soon. We've got somebody really cool in mind.
We have a lot of things coming around the corner.
Yeah.
We just wanted to get our feet wet for these first 6 episodes before we start bringing in guests. But 100%, that is the next step, is getting these guests talking about their different businesses that they started. Why, or again, there's talking about their success.
Right.
Like there's so many different levels of success when it comes to business, whether it's real estate, whether it's stock market, whether it's, starting any, small mom and pop business. Here in Seattle, we have a lot of connections. So we'd love to get them on the show and, bring them to you guys. And just again, start taking over with the amount of value that we'll be giving here.
Right. Start taking notes. So I think that's a wrap for episode 6. And yeah.
Yes, sir. That's a wrap.